Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. All right, second quarter, second hour, kicking off right now. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning if you are up and at it. If you missed the first hour, we're giving away, because it is a Wednesday, it is an Inside the Hobby Wednesday, giving away a Jackson Cheerio PSA graded 10 2022 Bowman Megabox card. If you're watching the video stream, right there. All right. If you're not, you're listening on the radio or online. That's the sound of the card in the case. Okay. Big thanks to our listener Paul for donating a lot of these cards and such. But usually we will do a trivia question and such, but I'm making it simple because, well, Jackson Cheerio, we got some good news. Hopefully he'll be back next week for the Brewers. But I think if you ask a lot of younger Brewers fans out there who their favorite player is, Jackson Cheerio would be a very popular pick. So if you wanted to get entered to win this card, whether it's for yourself or maybe for your kiddo, just tell me who your favorite player was, any sport, when you were younger. And if you text in on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912, or you go on YouTube and look up Man Cave TV and you find our video stream and you comment on there, you're going to be entered. This is going to go on until 10 a.m. And whatever order that you texted in, I've assigned you a number. And then at the end, the website I have will randomly give me a number from 1 through whatever we end up with. So that's all you got to do. Is just tell me who your favorite player was. And we've got quite the list here. I like it. Any sport, okay? Any sport. It don't matter. First hour, we talked Brew Crew. We talked some baseball as the Brewers picking up a win against the Diamondbacks last night, 12-3. They're back at it tonight with Brandon Sproat on the mound. So we'll get back to some more baseball talk coming up a little bit later on. In about an hour from now, we'll catch up with with Fireside Productions because dropping tomorrow is the new film, King of Coob. It's a documentary about Coob. I'm sure a lot of people in the Eau Claire, Chippewa Valley area have played that. But it's a new documentary by Steve and BJ from Fireside Productions. So quick chat with them before their movie drops tomorrow at the Pablo Center in Eau Claire. That's coming up at about 8 o'clock this morning. We'll do some Hy-Vee game changers. Again, that could be a play. That could be a move, like a front office move, or maybe you're like game changer with the Phillies, firing their manager, or Red Sox, same thing. Or maybe it was a draft pick. Make your picks. Make your picks. Send those to us. And plus, what is your Mike's Star Market Am I Wrong take? Your sports opinion, your sports thought, where you would just easily say, am I wrong for saying this? Am I wrong for thinking this? Let's kick off this hour talking a little football now that we are a few days removed from the NFL draft. Taking a look at your favorite team, your favorite team's depth chart, your favorite team's roster. Where is, and I'll open this up to non-Packers fans too, but what position group do you think is the biggest question mark you have for your team? And I'm kind of looking at it from a depth perspective, not necessarily maybe a talent, but depth perspective, where you would be like, okay, an injury away, I'm nervous. And for this, let's take quarterback off the table, because quarterback's probably pretty easy. So let's take quarterback off the table. What's a position group after the draft? And did it change? Did, kind of go back before the draft and to where it's at now? Did that change where maybe you're like, at first you're like, oh, it's corner, but now that they drafted 2 corners, maybe you're like, okay, I'm good with that. So now my biggest question mark is this position group. I think for me, I'll throw a couple out here. I think for me, the one that I kind of keep coming back to, and again, we're taking quarterback off this, I kind of keep going back to running back. Josh Jacobs is there. Josh Jacobs is the bell cow. He did get banged up a little bit last year. There is no Emmanuel Wilson this year. Your primary backup is Chris Brooks. And then you've got Marshawn Lloyd. Now, Marshawn Lloyd has talent. I don't think there's anybody that's going to argue that. It's just, can the guy stay healthy? We don't know. We don't know if the hamstring is going to hold up. We don't know if his injuries are behind him. And, I mean, if, knock on wood, Josh Jacobs gets hurt where he would have to miss an extended amount of time, you're with Chris Brooks and Marshawn Lloyd. And hopefully hopefully Marshawn Lloyd can stay healthy, and hopefully Marshawn Lloyd could be this talented running back that I think a lot of people still maybe believe that he could be. That's maybe one that, I kind of keep coming back to, where depth reasons, not necessarily talent, but depth reasons, I'm like, I guess talent kind of relates to it though too. So because they've got options, but it's just, is it the best options here? So running back kind of pops up to me. Obviously, I think tackle, maybe specifically the left tackle. You got Darian Kinnard, and I know they say that he could be kind of your backup left and right tackle and such, and he has played a lot of snaps in that, but they obviously addressed interior with the Burton pick. I look at backup tackle. I'm a little bit concerned about, they only drafted the one offensive lineman. They only had 6 picks. So I'm looking at that. I think defensively, you look at corner, obviously. They did address that in a draft. They got some depth. It's just kind of an unknown at this point, though. But, you could still say it's probably corner. But I think for me, the top 2 are, right now at this point, running back and left tackle. You're one injury away, I think, from being, a big unknown and a big question mark. Because, okay, let's say Jordan Morgan gets hurt. Knock on wood. Does Zach Tom then go to left tackle and then Darian Kinnard goes to right tackle? Do they just put Darian Kinnard there? Because as of right now, your depth chart, if you look at it, it's Brant Banks as your backup left tackle. We don't know really anything about Brant Banks at this point in time. So and I think, do you play the odds? There's probably going to be a injury on the offensive line, and then you're going to see the shuffling around and such. So I'd like a little bit more depth there, and maybe they can find a veteran out there that's. Who was the guy from a few years ago that retired? That came out of retirement, then came back to retirement, came out of retirement. Was it Veldeher? Jared Veldeher. Maybe they can find somebody like that or so. But who else do you got out there? We've got, let me scroll through because we got some more players here. We've got Jeff saying, offensive line is concerned for me with 2 players now. In the starting role, the depth is a little concerning. So I would agree. Surveyor says, biggest concern is still the offensive line, a team that couldn't run block and barely pass block. Is returning everyone but the left tackle. They didn't get anyone in free agency and drafted only one strictly interior guy in the 5th round. Goody must really believe in those guys, but if I was Love, I would be very hesitant of a line that allowed me to be pressured over 40% of my dropbacks. So let's go through some of the players here. We got another Frank Thomas pick. Okay, Dennis saying that. Marty says... favorite athlete was Michael Jordan. We had one of those big dishes for TV. I was able to watch all the games. Brandon's mom says Ben Sheets and Rockin' Robin, and JB in EC says Robin Yount. So, all right. Keep those picks coming. I'm going to add you all. And a Randy Moss pick came in too. So, if you're a first-time texter or maybe you haven't, I don't have your name on there, make sure you put your name to it just in case you are a winner. So if you do get texted back after 10 a.m., We got the Hetchman on YouTube saying Walter Payton was his favorite player as a kid. Doesn't matter what sport, just hit me up. All right, some good ones over there. So all across the board. I'm trying to think. Favorite player that wasn't on my favorite teams. I mean, Frank Thomas was. Baseball was kind of weird for me as a kid because, again, Brewers. I had a Brewers hat as a kid and Brewers stuff, but I was kind of a fan, but not really. So it's more of the player with Frank Thomas and that. But football, obviously, my favorite player that wasn't on the Packers was Neon Deion. Basketball, I mean, I was an Orlando Magic fan as a kid, so, I mean, Shaq and Penny. Now I'm a Bucks fan, but, as a kid growing up, it was Orlando Magic. I still have a little bit of a soft spot for the Orlando Magic. So I want them to beat the Pistons in the playoffs here. I still got that soft spot. Big-time Magic fan from the Shaq and Penny era all the way to the Tracy McGrady era. Oh, the what-ifs with the Tim Duncan. Gosh, I remember that. No lie, as a kid in the summers when dial-up internet, so this was late 90s, early 2000s, when you could sign up for a Yahoo GeoCities account. I made my own Orlando Magic website, fan website with like news and my analysis and breakdowns and all that stuff. Orlando Magic. I also did a hunting and fishing one too. Gosh, that was like, I'd get home from school. I'd either go shoot hoops or go to sports.yahoo.com, find what I missed during the day from a sports perspective. I still remember doing that and finding out. That's how I found out about the Ray Allen trade. Or then I'd work on my websites. GeoCities, man, because then you could have like these like weird awards and these counters. So I just like refresh every time and just like, oh yeah, I have like 5 people that checked my website now. So Spuck says Dr. J, Paul Molitor, and James Lofton. I've got a bunch of Paul Molitor cards in here I got to give away that are in cases yet too, graded ones too. So I'm gonna have to get to that here soon. But another texter, Levi says, as a young Brewers fan, Rob Deere. I like it. Keep them coming. All right, doesn't matter the sports. Doesn't matter the sport. Just keep those coming. Going down a little memory lane here for a little inside the hobby. So, all right, tell you what, we got to take a quick break. We'll continue some more football talk, but doesn't have to be Packers. I know it's primarily Packers, but if you are a fan, I know we got some fans that are non-Packers fans. When you take a look at the draft or take a look at your roster now after the draft, what would you say is the biggest question mark, the biggest weakness for your team? I'd love to hear from other division teams too. Just to kind of get an insight from them. So if you're a Vikings fan, if you're Tom from across the pond and you're a Lions fan, what would you say after the draft now is maybe the biggest question mark or the biggest weakness with your roster? If you're a Bears fan like Hatch, what would you say is the biggest weakness position-wise from your team after the draft? No name for this texter, but says Ray Nitschke, Jim Brown, Fran Tarkenton, Larry Bird, and Ali. I like it. Mark H. Says, favorite player not on my team as a kid was Mickey Mantle. That can be on your team, too. I was just kind of curious with if you had who was just your favorite player as a kid. It could be on your favorite team. I was just kind of curious because some people I know that are chiming in, favorite players that are not necessarily on their favorite team. So, all right, we'll take a quick break. We got more football talk, definitely more baseball talk coming. Don't forget to send me your Hy-Vee game changers and your Mike Star Markets, Am I Wrong? We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. As the fields are coming back to life, it is time for spring sports in the Chippewa Valley. So whether you're stepping up to the plate or hitting the track or maybe getting back on the field for some weekend warrior tournaments, make sure that your body is ready to perform. And at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, their team specializes in keeping athletes of all ages healthy, strong, and in the game. From injury prevention to expert care and recovery, they've got you covered every single step of the season. So don't let pain keep you on the sidelines. Get back in the game with confidence. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, helping you move better, play stronger, and staying in the game. I think I got to make an appointment with our good doc, Dr. Austin Crow. Little wing issue. Probably throwing all that BP and baseball practice and such. So, I appreciate this text. We got a quick text here. It says, just wanted to say how much I love your show. Almost every day you bring up a topic that takes me back to my childhood and reminisce on the good times. Thank you for that. Sounds like you and I had a very similar childhood with similar favorite things. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for that text. That's awfully nice of you. So let's continue some football talk here this morning as we're putting a bow on the NFL draft. Let's talk with Joe here for a little bit. Joe, favorite pick from the draft?
Favorite pick from the draft? Well, you want to lean into that Brandon Cisse pick, and I didn't think he was going to be there at 52, but obviously he was. I think Jager Burton. I'm going to go with Jager Burton, the center out of Kentucky, with pick 153. I think it wasn't only a good pick from a value standpoint, but a positional standpoint. And it seems to me when I watch his tape that he's got a little T.J. Lang and Josh sitting in him. And by that I mean obviously good football players, but a little bit of a mean streak. And I think one of the criticisms, if you will, and again, I don't think it was that bad, but it seemed last year sometimes that maybe if Jordan Love were to get a cheap shot that maybe no one physically or no one came up and said, I've got your back type of thing. And so I like the nastiness. I like what Burton brings to the table in that regard. Overall, I liked this draft for Green Bay. And I think this goes back to an off season where you and I have been saying almost from day one that this off season isn't about let's get a lot of numbers. Let's get a lot of picks. It was, and when you look at what they did in free agency, I think Gutekunst was very intentional as far as looking at the 27 draft and saying, okay, we're going to have all these compensatory picks next year, and we've got a team that's pretty close to being a Super Bowl contender. Let's round out the edges. So overall, I liked the Packer draft. I thought they went for value. They went with positional need. But again, going back to it, I think my favorite pick has to be Jager Burton with pick 153.
Was there a pick that maybe surprised you the most, that they actually went that direction or selected that player?
Yeah, looking at who was on the board in the third round, Chris McClellan, the defensive tackle out of Missouri, was the pick. There were a couple of other guys, Dominique Orange being one of them from Iowa State, that I think I probably had graded a little bit higher. But when I look at the comparisons and what McClellan brings to the table from a pass rush standpoint, he reminds me a little bit of Mike Daniels, really. When I look at the way he plays, he's a little bit bigger than Daniels was, of course, but he reminds me of that gap penetration that he brings to the table. So, yeah, that was probably the one. I didn't think Dennis Sutton was going to be there in round 4, pick 120. I had him going off the board in the second round, maybe early third round. So that pick surprised me in a good way. But, yeah, I would have to say that the McClellan pick, when it was made with other guys on the board, that took me back a bit. But then when I dove in and got a chance to really look at some of his tape, yeah, it was that the ability to not only stop the run, but to be disruptive in the pass game as well.
Receiver defer, do you think Trey Smack is going to be the rookie that contributes the most for the Packers, to at least at the beginning of the season?
It depends. You say if he can be a starter, or if he is that nickelback, I think he has a real opportunity.
The kicker, Trey Smack there, Joe.
Oh, I know. I thought you said which player has the.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I meant, do you? It's like receiver deferred. Do you think Trace Mack will be the rookie that with the most impact right away?
Yeah, I think so. And it surprised me with that pick because the Packers just gave $1 million bonus to McManus, and so that did surprise me. The fact that in a weak draft, I thought Gutekunst was smart to trade up the 2 7s to get Mack. Look, the kid can drill it from long distance. And at this point, I think the job is his without question, unless he completely melts down in preseason and in training camp. But, yeah, I think absolutely. I think he has the opportunity to make the biggest impact early on.
Looking at, they only came away with 6 picks in this draft, which, is surprising for Goody that came in for 8. I think a lot of us thought maybe they'd add a little bit more and such, but man, it sure seemed like he did go into this draft saying, okay, if there's a guy there that we really want, we're going to go out there and get this guy. So limited in what they could maybe build some depth on, but obviously it was corner. I don't know about you, Joe. Looking at these 2 corners, you mentioned Brandon a little bit, then you got Damani Jackson. To me, it seems like 2 things really stand out. Maybe you can make the case for this whole class: athleticism and physicality that a lot of these guys bring. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think you look at the RAS scores and the things that are out there as far as the athlete that they drafted. But I think Green Bay looked at it, though, and said, we want the athlete, but we want the player. And you look at it at Damani Jackson, and you're saying that guy's a player. He's got good athleticism. The thing that stood out for me looking at Jackson, and even Cisse to a different to an extent, was the willingness to tackle. So when you talk about that physicality, and this goes back to my Digger Burton conversation, is having an edge to you. And I think Green Bay realized to finish off games that they need guys with an edge, and they need guys that are willing to be physical. And so, yeah, I think absolutely. You've got a very athletic class, but you have a highly physical class. So I think you nailed it. And even when you look at some of the undrafted free agents, I think when you look at the tape of a Kelly, the kid from UCF, or Josh Gesky from Illinois, you look at those types of things, and you're saying, yeah, these guys are physical. They're willing to roll up their sleeves and get dirty a little bit. So I think Green Bay, when you look at, again, the totality of the offseason, I think they've got a lot of guys who bring a physical nature to the game and also bring an edge to the game. So, yeah, I think, again, Goody was very intentional with the types of players he was looking for.
With Danny Dennis Sutton being there in the 4th round and the Packers selecting them, I agree with you. I think maybe, they were surprised he was there at that pick. But with them selecting that, they have to make a decision by Friday about Lucas Van Ness. Does that alter the decision whether they pick up that 5th round option for Lucas Van Ness? Would you do the 5th round option for Lucas Van Ness or have him play out the rest of his rookie contract this year?
So the 5th-year option is always a big question mark, especially at this time if you've got a player like Van Ness. I think at this point Green Bay makes that move. I think they do go with the 5th-year option. That's such a bargaining chip, and I think Green Bay. You look at kind of the season he had last year with Van Ness, and he really, I think, improved last year, and he showed improvement. And there were some times he was injured last year, and so didn't get a chance to really see what he can do. But I think Green Bay exercises that 5th-year option, and I think it's a smart move to do so. I think the Dennis Sutton pick, to me, doesn't necessarily say that Van Ness is out the door. I think, again, you need to build as much depth, especially going back to kind of a base 3-4. I think you need to have as many of those types of football players as possible. So I think the Dennis Sutton move doesn't really correlate to anything as far as Van Ness goes. I think they exercise that 5th-year option.
So looking at kind of a question we've been throwing out this morning here, Joseph, has been, now that the draft is over with, what is the position group that maybe you're a little concerned about or maybe you have a question about in terms of the depth? And has it changed since the draft? When you look at the roster right now and you look at the depth, what's the position group that maybe you're a little bit nervous about, and has it changed from what it was before the draft?
I think it's running back.
Yeah.
When you look at that running back situation, and you've got, obviously Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd, we've been talking about him now for a couple of years since he was drafted. We just haven't been able to see him on the field. He has not been able to stay healthy. I like Chris Brooks. They picked up Jaden Nixon, undrafted free agent. That's where I get concerned. And again, if you're the Green Bay Packers and you're banking on Marshawn Lloyd being healthy, that's a tough bet. That's a really tough bet because history has said to us that you can't bank on that. So, when you look at it and you break it down positionally, I think Green Bay did a nice job at the cornerback position going into the draft. I think that was a question mark. I think Green Bay has, I think they have some undrafted free agents in Barrett and Gesky that I think add depth or might have a chance to make this football team from an offensive line standpoint. And you look at linebackers, and you can make an argument there, and you look at some of the defensive line. But I think it goes back to me that I was really hoping Green Bay was going to be able during the draft to get that running back position taken care of. But if you're again banking on Marshawn Lloyd, that's a bet I would not take right now.
Looking at some of the veterans, I call it the next wave of free agency, the veteran free agency, where I think you're going to see a lot of guys maybe signing one-year deals and such. Any names out there that would intrigue you that you'd like Green Bay to kind of approach?
I still say it, and again, May 1st is a big day because you're free to sign any player now from a free agent standpoint starting on May 1st, and it doesn't muck with the compensatory pick formula for next year. So I still wouldn't mind. I'd look at where Diggs is at. We've talked about Calais Campbell. I think I'd look at him. And so those are a couple of players post-May 1 that I would look at, especially Diggs. You had a chance to see him up close last year when you brought him in. You know what you got. If you liked it, if you saw something there, I think you can bring him in on a one-year prove-it deal. But that would be the direction I would go if I were Goody. But again, it would not surprise me at all if he does make a move, given the fact that it doesn't mess with next year's compensatory pick formula. So yeah, I would say probably, maybe this weekend, maybe next week, there is a move made somewhere, and maybe it is that running back position. Maybe there's a veteran out there that's got Goody's eyes that he's going to go after. But I do see them making a move, and again, for me, I would not mind Diggs at all if they saw anything from him last year when he basically had a 2-week tryout, or this year with Green Bay.
So before the Packers made their pick, if we go back to Friday, the news that they did sign Jayden Reed to a 3-year extension, $50 million, about $20 million guaranteed. I didn't have that on my bingo card before the draft, but I mean, you look at it, and Jayden Reed's got some security in that, but it kind of reminds me of a very typical Packers extension for receivers, where it allows the player to play a couple more years with a really good quarterback and potentially hit free agency again for a big contract. But your thoughts on the move, and who do you think is next on that list to get done for Goody?
I thought it was a great move. I thought it was a very team-friendly move. It was. I thought the timing was excellent as far as getting it done. And again, you look at what Jayden Reed was able to do in previous seasons, not necessarily last year because of the collarbone injury, but he's a playmaker. He's a playmaker. And I think Green Bay, you're seeing a shift that Green Bay is no longer going to say, hey, we're just going to have a lot of number 2 kind guys that we got to spread the ball around to. When you look at it right now, I just don't think there's any question. Your top 3 wide receivers are Watson, Reed, and Golden. There's just no question now that those are the guys you're going to go with. And so I thought it was a great move. I still see Tucker Kraft as that next move being made. I see Christian Watson still getting done. I don't think Christian Watson plays this season without a new deal, and I'm not saying he's going to sit out. I just think Green Bay has prioritized him, and you see the difference he makes when he's in the game. And I think you look at that Devontae Wyatt situation as well. But I would say right now, my best bet is probably the Tucker Kraft deal gets done, especially when you look at that tight end room. And outside of Tucker Kraft, and of course Luke Musgrave has teased us over the last couple of seasons with his athleticism, but that tight end room is not good without Tucker Kraft. So I think Kraft gets done. I still think Watson gets done, and I still think Wyatt gets done as well.
I thought it was kind of interesting, too, that Goody did admit that they'd probably like to get another Y tight end and inline tight end and such. So I wonder if that's maybe something that he's kind of perusing the veteran market for.
Yeah, Mercedes Lewis is available.
He is.
And so, he wouldn't be, in my opinion, a bad pickup if you're looking for that inline tight end. And so, you're absolutely right. That might be an area where Green Bay says, you know what, let's go out and get a guy that knows the offense, that is reliable, that you know what you're going to get out of, and you bring him in, and he becomes that guy that almost that sixth offensive lineman with a wide tight end kind of body that you can put in line. And so, that would not surprise me at all. And I think we've seen it now with where Green Bay wants to go with this zone running attack and some of the things they're doing with Josh Jacobs. They want to get bigger and they want to get stronger. And I think bringing a guy like that in would not hurt Green Bay at all.
All right, before I let you go, Joseph, just kind of some final thoughts on this Packers draft. I know you and I are kind of in the same boat. We don't like to put letter grades and stuff on that until maybe after a couple of years in that. But just maybe some final thoughts on what you thought Goody did or what the Packers did in this draft.
Yeah, I'll wrap the bow up on kind of the meat of the whole off season. I really like what Goody has done. I really do. I think philosophically, Green Bay is no longer the youngest team in the NFL. I think Goody did this offseason with an eye on two things. I think he did this offseason looking at it and saying, what kind of football team do I have today? And what does the 2027 situation look like? So I think he handled this offseason perfectly. And again, you and I are exactly in the same boat. Then cannot stand letter grades when you look at the draft 2 or 3 days after the draft. But I will say this, I think Green Bay got good value, and I think they addressed needs without reaching. And I think they did a good job of building some of the fringe and some of the depth in areas that they needed to. And again, I didn't think a kid like Cisse was going to be there. I think they got great value out of Dennis Sutton. And obviously they looked at their situation and said, we need competition across the board. I think Green Bay did a really nice job with building competition at some of these positional groups. So overall, off season, again, no grades, but I think Goody has done a really nice job of kind of filling in some of those missing puzzle pieces for what could be a Super Bowl contending football team. So very pleased with it, very happy with it. Again, on paper, it looks like they did a good job. The proof, though, is when it hits the field this fall. So we will see, but I'm very pleased with this offseason.
He's Joe DeGuano. Good stuff as always, sir. Appreciate the time chatting some green and gold. You enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch up with you again next week, okay?
All right, brother. Take care, man.
You got it. There you go. There's Joe hopping off here this morning. Hey, we got to take a quick break, but still continue to send us who is your favorite or who was your favorite player in any sports when you were younger, and I'll enter you for a chance to win a Jackson Cheerio PSA graded 10 card donated by one of our fine listeners, Paul. All right. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Hey, coming up May 15th through the 16th, it's Barbecue Fest at the Northern Wisconsin State Fairgrounds in Chippewa Falls. And I'm going to be over there on May 16th, Saturday, for a little bit with our good friends from Mike's Star Market. Our good buddies, good friends, Mike's Star Market, can be over there participating and such. So stop by, say hi, maybe try some samples and such. But you can head to nwsfa.com to check out the schedule of events for Barbecue Fest coming your way again May 15th through the 16th. There's a cornhole tournament. They've got vendors. They've got live music. And, of course, the Backyard Griller competition. So that's coming up here pretty darn quick. And I can't wait to hang out for a little bit there. I think Hutz is going to join me, too, for with our friends at Mike's Star Market. Again, that's going on at the Northern Wisconsin State Fairgrounds, May 15th through the 16th. All right. First off, we got Carl from Colfax. Favorite player growing up was Robin Yount. He played the game the right way and always seemed to be enjoying everything about the the game. Chad from Mondovi chiming in saying favorite player growing up was Greg Maddux. I use Greg Maddux all the time as an example for some of my 9 and 10-year-old pitchers trying to figure out pitching in that, focusing on the accuracy in that. All right, I need help. Well, I need help in a lot of ways, but I need your help right now. Okay, I saw this article. It's for like sports radio media and such, and it's an article written by somebody that says why radio stations need mascots, and they talk about and they use Bigfoot as an example for a radio station out west. All right, that's it. We need our own mascot. And, of course, it's got to be Bigfoot in a sports jersey. So I need your help. Who could design it? And where do I go for this thing? I mean, this is we're doing this. If teams have mascots and now radio stations are our mascots, this show's having a mascot. And it's going to be Bigfoot in a sports jersey. And we need to make some stuffies or maybe make some Funko Pops or whatever it has to be. Let's get this thing done. Maybe some bobbleheads. I don't know. But we gotta get this thing. Coloring books for the kids, whatever. I need some help with this. Surveyor, where are you at? You gonna help me out? Surveyor, come on. You're supposed to help out with the car derby and wooden car derby, Pinewood Derby. Haven't heard about that in a while, so let's get this thing going. Let's figure this out. Maybe some cards, ball cards, sports cards in there. Got to come up with a name for our mascot too. All right, that's my next project. I got to figure this out. We do have to take another break before the top of the hour, but just coming up past 8:00, we'll catch up with the crew from Fireside Productions to talk about their upcoming documentary on Coob, which will be premiering at the Pablo Center tomorrow. So we'll hear from them, and then we'll get back to some more Brewers talk as we get set for Game 2 tonight. Brandon Sproat is on the mound. So we'll talk a little bit about that and get back to some more football talk. Send me your Mike Star Markets, Am I Wrong? Your Hy-Vee Game Changers, and we'll do a little Inside the Hobby coming your way too. So, but I do have to take one more break here in a couple of minutes. Again, if you're just joining, if you want a chance to win this Jackson Churio PSA graded 10 card, you just simply got to text in or comment on the video stream your favorite player when you were a kid. That's it. That's simple, and you're going to be entered. All right? That easy. Send it on in, and then you'll automatically be entered, and we'll randomly pick the number that you're assigned coming up after 10 o'clock. And if you get a text back from me saying you won and I need some info from you, then you're the winner. If you don't get a text back, got next week because we got a lot of cards from Paul. And speaking of Paul, we got a lot of Paul Molitor cards. Probably have to hit up a Paul Molitor card next week. So, all right. Let's take our final break for the second quarter before we hit halftime. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Hey, don't forget to sign up for the 6th annual Casper Classic coming your way Friday, August 7th at Lake Hallie Golf Course. Just go to WAYYradio.com, sportstalk1051.com. It's right on the homepage there. You'll see the icon that says Casper Classic. Click on that, and that'll take you to where you sign up. We've got those 3 tee times, 7:30 a.m., 10 a.m., and 1 p.m. 2-person team. $90 includes your round of golf, 9 holes, carts, some beverage tickets, your meal. Big thanks to Hy-Vee again for providing the meal. We've got Window World on as a sponsor. We've got Superior Auto Body, VFW Post 305. Also under Myron Construction. So if you're interested in partnering with us to help support Backyard Dreams, please reach out, or maybe donating a prize or raffle prize or anything like that. All proceeds go to Backyard Dreams. So a big thanks to everybody who has signed up already. And every year we've sold out. So if you want to get your 2-person team in now, better do it before it's too late. A couple more picks here. Shoot over a name, too, if you're a first-time texter or such. Pass along a name, so otherwise people might think I'm making some of these up. But we've got one texter saying Jeff Jenkins, favorite player. Another texter said Rob Deere. Chris from Altoona said Bill Goldberg. All right. Brett Favre, Charles Barkley, Ken Griffey Jr. Steve from Eau Claire said Robin Yount. I was 10 years old when he retired, and he was as loyal to the Brewers as any player they've ever had. So there's no right or wrong answer. in this one that maybe win this card. So keep sending those on over to that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, or again, you can go on the video stream and chime in over there with the Section 105 crew. So, all right, coming up just past 8 o'clock, we'll hear from Steve and BJ from Fireside Productions, talk about their documentary that's going to be coming your way about Coob. I know a lot of Eau Claire peeps, Chippewa Valley peeps, worldwide players across. Eau Claire is a big hub for that. So, new documentary about that sport, that game, dropping tomorrow at the Pablo Center. So, we'll chat with Steve and BJ coming up here in just a little bit. We got some numbers on the Jaden Reed contract, too, I want to hit up. Also, Mike Star Market, Am I Wrong? Hy-Vee Game Changer. So, and a little Inside the Hobby. We'll probably get to that part in the 9 o'clock hour. But keep those picks coming. Looking for your favorite player. I don't care what sport. Can be any sport. You want to give me all of them? Beautiful. You want to give me one? Beautiful. Send them on over, and I'll put your name in the running to win this 2022 Jackson Cheerio PSA graded 10 card, as we are doing on Wednesday for a little Inside the Hobby. So, all right, shot clocks have cut me off, and we are at halftime, baby. Cruising on through. We have some news updates, and we'll be back to kick off the third quarter. Coming